Social shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's some social shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this beat myself, so hear me. Woo! I mean, like, we can pull that clown shit away. This some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thugs in harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
Yo, what's going on, peeps? I am back in the building, and for the first time, I'm going to actually do a reaction to a video you guys have probably watched. The Sky Sports video, they did a, what do we call it? An all-time Premier League 11. So of course, they were going through, a few of the players and things like that. Obviously, because it's on Sky Sports, I can't obviously copyrights and stuff like that. So obviously, I can't really show you guys the actual video and somewhat react to it. But I will, of course, put the video kind of title, whatever. The thumbnail obviously is there for you guys to be able to see, so you guys can go and check it out, man. And I think it was a very, very interesting conversation in regards to it. I think was it Boovy and I can't remember the girl's name. I want to say Stun Peg or something, like I want to say that's her name, like, well, whether that's the name that she kind of uses, but yeah, I want to say it's something along those kind of lines. I can't exactly remember what her name is, so I do apologize. But I have heard her speak on other not issues, but other topics in regards to football. I don't actually know who she supports. I hear her talk quite a bit about Liverpool. I thought she supported Liverpool, but I'm now not that confident that she might actually support them. So yeah, I don't really know, but yes, it was those two. It was Boovy, and I'm gonna try and find her name, because I know everybody was going on and on, obviously, about this whole, debate that she was having in regards to, Mo Salah and Ronaldo and Rio and Virgil van Dijk and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find her name, because I really don't want to be rude. I feel like her name is Nueve, something like that, man. I can't even remember. But either way, I guess that doesn't. Stunt Peg is her. Yeah, that's it. Neve. I'm gonna call her Neve. That's I don't know how they pronounce it. But either way, regardless of all of that, that's the most unimportant part. It's the actual video. So obviously they went through their Premier League 11, right? And in regards to their Premier League 11, I think first and foremost, obviously we got to touch on some of the things that, of course, they kind of said. So really, it was the two talking points, as it was always going to be, because they did pick a team, and to be fair, most of the team they kind of just agreed on the choices, even ones that they may have not necessarily picked. They still were kind of cool in regards to the choices made. It was really just the Rio versus Virgil van Dijk and the Mo Salah versus Cristiano Ronaldo. And I said, listen, man, everyone was getting onto Neve, right? And I was thinking, the thing is, yeah, listen, I didn't agree with her point. I had Ronaldo, and of course we'll go through my Premier League all-time 11, and then I'll give you guys my reasons. But it's difficult, right? Because some people were saying, and they were using the fact that her age, right? So I don't know exactly how old she is. I don't really care, but from what I gathered, in terms of people were doing some Wikipedia research to find out how old she actually was. Somehow I'm assuming they found out, and they were trying to use that as some type of mark against her, in terms of, yeah, because she's only this age, she didn't really get to see this, that, and the third. I hear that. I do genuinely hear that. So I do think there is definitely validity to that. Of course there is. I can't sit here and tell you that, when people say, oh, Maradona's the best, footballer ever, but then my best footballer, I can say, is Lionel Messi as an example, right? Because I've never ever seen a Maradona. So when that argument or that conversation comes about, I can't really argue for a Maradona and say, oh yeah, no, but no, I can't. What do you mean? I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I never saw Maradona. So the reality of that is that I can't really bring that into any conversation. All I can do is put my best foot forward for someone like Lionel Messi as an example, right? Now, I don't know how old she was when Ronaldo was, prime. Well, I say he wasn't really a prime Real Madrid, but entering his prime, shall we say, at a Manchester United to then obviously move on, you know, to a Real Madrid in the first place. So, but I'm going to assume she was quite young anyway. So if she was quite young, then again, like I said, there's going to be validity to that regardless, because to say that you've watched a player, but you couldn't really comprehend that, and then you've gone back, watched highlights, and at the end of the day, you didn't watch it in real time. Do you get what I'm trying to say? It's not a movie. I always say football is not a movie. You can't just go like you're not going to get the same kind of energy in context if you watch something 10, 15 years later or whatever that, you know, whatever the case may be, right? So I do think there's validity in that. Although what I will say is that the arguments that she was putting forward, Neve was putting forward for Salah, I was like, I hear it though. It's not like she's saying, like, she understood, like, yo, like, you know what, like Ronaldo was Ronaldo, blah, blah, blah. And she obviously mentioned with Salah and the consistency and all of these kind of things. I was like, but that's calm. But like I said, I could see both sides. She wasn't really trying to, you know, talk to, she understood, like, you know, and again, by the way, I'm basing this purely off of people who have come out online and stuff and said that she's this age and that age. I don't know. I actually, for all I know, she was old enough, you know, to comprehend watching a Ronaldo. I don't know. And I really don't want it to come out that kind of way, right? But the reality is that when I kind of think about it, yeah, sometimes I'm just like, you can't in one breath feel so strongly about an individual that maybe you didn't really see, and then you're going to prop up this other individual, of course, who you have seen and you've seen throughout the prime years of your own footballing experience, life, and all that kind of stuff, to then be able to judge this individual. It's going to be difficult to have that conversation, because what would your art like? It's like your argument obviously being the fact that Salah did it for 8 years, and listen, we'll get, like I said, we'll get into all of that when I go through my team. But I was just like, it's just going to be difficult, because if you haven't really seen Ronaldo, you got to then understand as to why individuals have picked Ronaldo. Because if they've seen Ronaldo and they were old enough to, again, to comprehend watching a Cristiano Ronaldo, and again, thinking about relative to time, at that period of time, he was being touted, if not, he was already, if not, yeah, let's say he was either there or thereabouts, alongside Lionel Messi, as, yeah, these two are going to be the best players in football history generation. They were moving in that, you know, type of direction, right? And he definitely started that at Manchester United. That definitely did not start at Real Madrid. It started at Manchester United, especially in those kind of seasons. So when people are putting that kind of argument, would I say, forward, and in terms of him winning Ballon d'Or and all these kind of things, if you never really saw that and you're watching it from a, yeah, I'm watching it back and I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Well, I did see this, and you know, guess what? That, you know, you've gone and you've had to look at stats, because again, if you didn't watch him, you're gonna have to go back and look at some stats. You may start watching old games. I know for a fact nobody's sitting there watching bare of the old games. And you know what? It's not even about just watching the old games. You actually have to go back to that period of time, i.e., what was going on in the world in terms of how was the world's perception of other players, who were the other players in and around that kind of time, how was the perception in and around this individual, how did everybody else perceive this kind of individual, to then get a real feel. That's why I say it's not really like a movie, which you can kind of watch, you know, really at any given time. And if we're being buck, if we're keeping it real, I couldn't go back and watch a movie in black and white and be like, oh yeah, this is a classic. Well, yeah, it's in black and white. But outside of that, I couldn't really comprehend it, you know, because of where I'm in a different time space now. You know what I mean? In that, I wasn't born in that era, or I wasn't old enough in a certain era and things like that. So when people spoke, like I said, in regards to the actual, like the age thing and stuff like that, bro, I definitely agreed. I 1,000,000% agreed, because I was like, okay, I hear that, because I don't know how you're going to give an informed decision on something you didn't really see. It's going to be kind of difficult. But if your decision is only based just because you saw one individual, then that's calm. Like I said, you can have the opinion. I'm not saying that. Someone could sit here who has never ever seen Pele play and say, yeah, he's the greatest, he's an icon, whatever. I don't look at Pele like that, because I'm like, well, I never saw him play. All I've ever heard is just what people have said, and seen some videos like random of, you know, couple games here and there. Like, but I don't know, because at that period of time, people would have said this is the greatest player, and that's fair. You know, I mean, I can't argue with that, but it's always relative to time, in my personal opinion. And it's difficult anyway for both Boothie and Neve in that situation, because you're trying to judge players from different eras. So even they were having other conversations about other players, and it's like, bro, it's going to be difficult because you're trying to judge like different eras of football. Like football isn't even the same. Like if it was the same eras that you were judging, that's different, because then you can have a bit more of an informed opinion and, you know, etc., etc. But where this wasn't really like that, yeah, for me, that's where I was a bit like, yeah, it's going to be a little bit tricky in my personal opinion. But hey, listen, they both did a great job. Neve anyway, and I know this is more becoming about her, but it's because bare people kind of getting onto her. One thing I will say about Neve, bro, like she knows her football. I love people who just talk football. Like I love that. Like the fact that they talk ball, the fact that they talk sense. You know what I mean? I can always fuck with that. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So I actually like listening to her. I just felt when I was listening to that literally just that argument with the everything, even the Van Dijk conversation that she was having, I thought, bro, like she's got a point in what she's saying. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, but yeah, it was just that Salah thing. I was thinking, it's going to be like I'm not saying you're right or wrong even in this kind of situation, but I can see both sides. I can see your side as to why you would pick someone, and I can see why people would use that kind of argument against you. Again, not saying it's right or wrong. I'm really not here to do that. You know what I mean? I'm not the judge, jury in this, you know what I mean, in this kind of situation. What I am is just a viewer and a listener, you know, a consumer of this kind of content. So when I hear these certain things, and I love football debates, I love football conversations, I love all of these kind of things. When I hear these things, I'm just like, oh, okay, fair dues, fair dues. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, that's why, yeah, I just felt like, yeah, you know what, man, like, one, I don't think people should be getting onto her anyway. Like, bro, we can have a healthy debate with her. I don't know if she's replied to any of these people. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but you can have that debate with her. I'm sure she'll probably spin you in the debate anyway, because she is so good at actually talking about ball. But I don't want it to be a thing of like surprise or whatever. She's another human being who likes football and can talk football. That's the way I look at her. And that's the way I like it. Do you know what I mean? In terms of, you know, I fuck to people who just, they know ball. Like she knows ball in a different kind of way. Like I don't think I even feel like these kind of conversations are even beneath her. Like Boozy, yeah, I feel like that's just him. But with her, I feel like these kind of conversations are even beneath you. Like you don't need to even be involved in this kind of conversation, man. Like you can be really talking about ball on a different kind of space, in a different kind of lane. But listen, man, it is what it is. It was what it was. Like I said, you guys go and check out the actual Sky Sports video. Like I said, I can't show you the video live, but you know, I'll throw up some pictures and stuff for you guys to be able to see, and you know, you can kind of go from there. Let's go with my team, man. Let's go with my team. So my Premier League 11 would be, I got 𝐒𝐷𝐀𝐃 in goal. I think 𝐒𝐷𝐃𝐃. Excuse me. At the end of the day, I think it was difficult because I had him or Petr Cech. I think pound for pound, yeah, like Petr Cech was close though. Like I really he was so close. But I started to think about, because it's a Premier League legacy, I got to think about your entirety in the Premier League. And when I thought about like your time at Arsenal, I did think you kind of dropped. Even though, don't get twisted, when 𝐒𝐷𝐃𝐃 was at Aston Villa, of course he did drop as well. But he'd had so many good years at Manchester United that it just outweighed the good years in terms of, again, I guess longevity, you know, in that kind of space, you know. And I didn't feel like Petr Cech had enough at the top level to really, even when he came back after the head injury, he was still good. I would probably say maybe can't remember how many years he was at Chelsea, maybe a couple of seasons and things like that, calm. But when we're just talking Petr 𝐒𝐷𝐃𝐃 for eons, for absolute eons, it felt like basically his whole time at Manchester United, however many years that was, you know, so pivotal, you know, and important to them, you know, winning, you know, so many Premier Leagues and things like that. And yeah, man, that he was just the reason. But you know, there's other Petr Cech, Edwin van der Sar, Alisson was very, very close as well. Alisson, you know, it was him, Cech, and in fact, those four actually, to be fair, were the ones I was thinking about. I just went with Petr Cech, just purely legacy, most Premier Leagues, etc., etc. So yeah, man. But again, there's an argument for all four of them. I think you could have put, you know, anyone in them. Right back, I've gone for Kyle Walker. I think for me, pound for pound, he is the best right back of the Premier League era, in my personal opinion. I think absolute. Obviously, we know obviously his career at Manchester City just kind of, you know, he started to decline a little bit as a player and things like that. But I cannot deny what I saw from Kyle Walker. Absolute supreme athlete, supreme, like literally supreme. And that's not just his time at Manchester City. We're talking about a guy who's at Tottenham for years, part of one of the best Tottenham teams you ever have seen. Literally, literally, probably one of the best, if not the best Tottenham team of the Premier League era. He is a part of that. You know, fantastic player down that right-hand side, you know, locking up players. And, you know, to me, he was just such a, like, solid right back. And you could have had a Trent. There's Gary Neville, of course, won Premier Leagues, but Kyle Walker can rival that, you know, conversation about, obviously, I'm not saying in terms of how many, but Kyle Walker's won a few Premier Leagues at damn self. You know what I mean? Like, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Premier League titles. Like, you know what I mean? He's got his fair share as well. Obviously, Neville got there, to be fair, obviously, with that Manchester United, with the Manchester United team, of course. So he's probably going to outweigh him. I mean, I bet if I look now, it's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, 8. So there's only 2 more. Okay, yeah. Nah. Then it's closer than I thought. I just counted it now. It's closer than I thought. So, nah, I'll go with Kyle Walker. The 2 centre backs I've gone with is Rio and Terry. Again, Virgil van Dijk, very, very close. Terry, I feel like, is a definite. I feel he's the best Premier League captain I've seen in the Premier League, in terms of just being a captain, you know, for your team. The leadership, brother, it's on a different level, different kind of gravy, different type of animal. I've gone with Rio because, again, I just feel like between Rio and Virgil, I think I just went with Rio because I feel like your entire Premier League legacy for me was extremely good, in my personal opinion, you know, in terms of from West Ham, you know, almost being that kind of, bro. I remember him being a defensive midfielder. Like, that's how crazy it was when it came to Rio Ferdinand. I fully remember that. From West Ham, working his way up, him, Frank Lampard, to Joe Coles, and that kind of era. Then going to Leeds United, where Leeds United were an absolutely top team at that period of time. And then I think at the time, then going for that, of course, that record fee at that time anyway, for a centre or for a defender, I think at that period of time when he moved from Leeds to Manchester United. Manchester United, I mean, for years and years and years, he was just a top defender. And I think he reached heights. Now, do I think he reached heights of a Virgil? I don't think so. But for me, I just feel like Rio had a bit more longevity, in my personal opinion. Now, that's not to say if I do this list in however many years that, you know what I mean, Virgil won't potentially get there. I'm not saying that. But right now, I look at it and I think to myself, we're talking a player, in my opinion. I'm not even going to use the West Ham season. I'm going to just go from Leeds United onwards, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're talking about, if I've taken out a few seasons, I'd say a decade where he was at the top, in my personal opinion. I don't think Virgil van Dijk's been at the top for the last decade like that. I think he's definitely got there and he stayed there and he then performed at this level. But I think from when Rio got to Leeds, he was already that guy. Like, I think he knew, I think the Premier League knew he was always going to be that guy. So yeah, I'm gonna have, you know, him there. But listen, he was close. Left back, I don't think there's even a competition. I think they even ran through this one as well. I was like, yeah, I mean, who else are you gonna, you know, necessarily put there? So I'll go to midfield. Patrick Vieira, I think probably, in my opinion, one of the best just midfielders, in my personal opinion, that I think I've seen in the Premier League. I really, really think that as a midfielder, what he stood for at Arsenal, the type of play was the powerhouse. He you know, he walked so Yaya Toure could run. I promise you that for free. Yeah, I'm saying, like, Yaya Toure, of course, later came in and had this kind of, you know, technical ability about him. Vieira walked so that there was a Yaya Toure. So for me, captain of Arsenal, invincible, had to be there. KDB, in my opinion, the best midfielder I've ever seen in the Premier League. I just think as a midfielder, what he offers you as a midfielder, for me, puts him in the midfield conversations. Like, as in, whatever you want from, like, what I would like to see from a midfielder, in terms of, obviously, Vieira is a better defensive midfielder as an example, but that's for that role. If I'm just talking about a midfielder, someone who can pass, someone who can score goals, someone who can assist, someone who can play in midfield. And I think we all I feel like it's even underrated just how good Kevin De Bruyne actually was in midfield. I think we all just think, yeah, this guy just passed the ball. Bro, this guy used to track back, you know what I'm saying, defend, tackle, and all these kind of things. Not as much, nowhere near as much as a Vieira or Roy Keane or stuff like that. Of course not. But when we're talking about a player who has influence, yeah, for me, best midfielder I've ever seen in the Premier League, man. Absolute. Just ridiculous. This level of talent that I've never seen this before. not from a midfielder anyway. And then we got Gerrard, Mr. I can do everything. Mr. I can do everything. I can pass, I can tackle, I can play right back, I can play right mid, I can play up front, I can play in a 10, I can play midfield, I can play DM, I can do anything. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I can really do anything. And I think, yeah, man, when I'm looking at someone like, you know, someone like Steven Gerrard, listen, as much as I might talk about him a little piece, and do you know what I mean, and the way that I might just kind of view him as an individual, it's hard to deny it. To be fair, it was a toss-up between him and Lampard, because I think Lampard, for me, is very underrated. And to be honest, I'm still thinking maybe Lampard, but for now, we'll keep Gerrard in there. Lampard, no midfielder can score goals like Lampard. Gerrard couldn't, Scholes couldn't, Keane couldn't, none of these guys could. Kevin De Bruyne can't do. They cannot score goals like Lampard, because Lampard scored goals like a striker. None of these guys are like that. None of them. Like, absolutely none of them. They're all very, very quality players, but Lampard had that USP about him. With Gerrard, I don't really feel like he has a USP. I feel like, or if he is, his USP is like passion or something like that. But he can do everything, if that makes sense. So there is that about Steven Gerrard. Like, if you need, like, to have a midfielder who can do everything and do everything to a very good level, you have someone like Steven Gerrard. And if you want a specialist, I don't feel like Gerrard is a specialist at anything. I just feel like he's a guy who can do everything. And when you've got that level of passion and mixed with a bit of quality in there as well, don't get twisted. Like, maybe people are maybe even underestimate Gerrard's quality anyway, just as a player. I'm not going to underestimate that. I thought he was pretty decent, like kind of underrated in that kind of regards. But yeah, like I say, for me, I just look at him as a mister. He can do everything. So you just have him in there. Obviously, right wing, like I said, I think Ronaldo had a 3-year period before he went to Real Madrid. He won the Ballon d'Or in that time. Obviously, won the Premier League, I think 3 times or something like that. But just him as a player, I don't think I've seen maybe Suarez season, and I can't remember another one. But in terms of like one-off seasons, I can't remember someone impacting a season in terms of just general play like that, like he did in the year that he won the Ballon d'Or. But also in that 3-year period, I think people, and this is why I say you probably have to have watched it really in real time. He reached a level where I think Kaká's still about. All of these guys are still around, right? But he reached this level where it was like, I don't know how to explain it, but Salah's at a place, as an example, because Salah's obviously the one here for right wing, right? Salah's in a space, right, where he's past his prime. We're now just purely talking about consistency. Salah in his prime had never reached a Ronaldo level anyway. So I'm like, okay, if he's never even reached that level, I can't then put like, and I'm talking, I don't even think Salah has ever reached Ronaldo's level at last year of Manchester United. Like, that level was like, it was just a different level. Like, it was totally different. The first few years that Ronaldo was here was like, he was 18 and 9, however old he was. You know what I mean? But when those last 3 years, I feel like those 3 years, you can take the other years if you want, because he still played games. He still, you know, played a part in Manchester United winning things. But it's those last 3 years, I will still easily put up against Salah's 8 years in the Premier League, because the reality is Salah's 8 years is in his prime ages. Ronaldo's is like, yeah, I'm coming into my prime. Do you know what I mean? Before that, I was just like a kid. I'm now coming into the prime. But the level I saw from Ronaldo, I just said, yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to see stuff like that, you know? I don't feel like Salah, for me, watching Salah week in, week out, I don't feel like Salah's hit that type of level before. I think if you're going to base it purely on goals, then yeah, he will dwarf Ronaldo in every aspect. Obviously, he's been here longer anyway. He would have been here a bit longer. So that's probably inevitable to happen. But if we're just talking purely ability from the player, and forget what Ronaldo even turned into at Real Madrid, I'm talking if you watched his last 3 seasons at Manchester United, I promise you the level that this brother was on was, we're talking generational level, whereas Salah has never, ever been at that level, like ever. You know, he's not even at his best, he's not at that level. You know what I mean? We're just like, yeah, he's good. Like, he's good for what we have now. We have to start placing him in the now conversations. Whereas Ronaldo was being put in conversations then, before, future, back in the time. Like, he's been put in everything because he was performing at that kind of level. So that's the kind of level that you know, I would put him in. But listen, that's why I've got Ronaldo. I wouldn't begrudge you if you put in, of course, Mo Salah. I've got Rooney. To me, Rooney is the best English player I've ever seen. I don't give a fuck. Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, all of them. Rooney is the best English player I have ever seen in this country. He is the best. He is literally the best. He is the best. He's the best. Michael Owen's the best wonder kid, 100%, but didn't have the career that he should have had. He didn't have the longevity. I have not seen a player who can perform from minute one for as long as he has. I have never seen that. Gerrard ain't done it. Lampard ain't done it. Scholes didn't do it. None of them done it. They all had periods when they got older. Gerrard after the age of like 20 and that. You know what I'm saying? Lampard, the same thing when he moved to Chelsea. Scholes, when he got a little bit older, he moved from you know, playing as a front man and moved into that midfield and maybe even a little bit deeper. You see Rooney from the age of 16. From the age of 16, this brother was solid till the age of whenever he left Manchester United. Like, ridiculous. And this guy was, it was just ridiculous, man. Him, Ronaldo and Tevez was dumb. Him, but on his own, was dumb. Playing up front, we were receding hairline Rooney. Don't piss me off. And last but not least, we got Thierry Henry, man. The greatest player in the Premier League history, in my opinion. Yeah, greatest. Nothing more I can really say, man. And yeah, here's my team, man. Here is my team. I'd love to hear everyone else's thoughts as well, man. I would really love to hear, you know, what does everyone else think in terms of, you know, their 11. Like I said, man, go and check out the video on Sky Sports as well. I think it would be important. Like, go and listen to the conversation, because it's a really good conversation from Neve and Boovie in terms of when they're talking about this. I like the picks. Even if I didn't really like some of the picks anyway, I like the explanations behind them. Bit of biasness with some of them, but like, I expect that. You know what I mean? If you support a certain team, then, you know, it is what it is. And yeah, man, I just think it's a good conversation. I feel like people need to be a bit more nuanced with what they listen to and the opinions that they hear, but they also need to understand both sides. That's something I don't think that we all understand when we all have arguments. I do it myself sometimes. We don't always get it from both sides. Sometimes we need to hear it from both sides to really understand, you know, as to what that other individual, you know, is kind of trying to say, to then be able to formulate, you know, our arguments. But listen, I'll let you guys go and check that out your damn selves. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, people, and I'll catch you maybe potentially with another reaction video, man.